this way or that way, and so if this is a difficult place for you to sit because you're in the sunshine, all our area over here in our South Chapel is still open. We have another 50-some seats that are available as long as you maintain some distance from other folks. Have you got 7 o'clock?
Yep, exactly.
So it's 7 o'clock. It's time to start. Again, thank you so much for being here, everyone. This is a highlight of our speaker series this year. As you know, Bill Murphy and Lee Schmaltz came to me. James, you can have a seat right there. I got a reserved seat for you. And Dennis, come on up as well. Bless your heart, you're here as well. The speaker series has been started as a part of our outreach as a community, because we are here at Mariner Sands Chapel. We're just trying to build community, to be friendly, and to love each other and welcome everyone. Some of you may be brand new to the Mariner Sands community, and so we especially want to welcome you as well. Hey, let's do this. If you have been at Mariner Sands less than 3 months, would you just stand so we can give you a standing O? See, there's something going on at Mariner Sands. It's in the DNA. And we are just so delighted to have new folks here, as well as old folks, in the sense that old folks in the sense that you've been here more than 30 years. That's what I mean. Yeah. So, for those, and Dennis and his sidekick is here as well. Dennis Walters is here as well, and we'll make an announcement about that sooner. Thanks, James. Appreciate that, helping us out. Super duper. Great to see you again, Dennis. So let me introduce to you, again, Lee Schmaltz. Lee and Bill have been a part of this speaker series. We're going to have more in the fall. This will probably be the last one for this season. And then in the fall, we'll have other great speakers. And we'll let you know that as time comes around. So good to have you, and it's a good night. Can you hear us out there in the golf carts? Honk if you love Jesus. There you go. Okay, good. All right. Good. Okay. Sorry. But this is a great spot. And so tonight, let me introduce to you Mr. Lee Schmaltz, who is going to introduce our special guest tonight. Lee.
Well, thanks, Gary. Everybody hear me back there? Way out there? Good? Okay. What a special night this is. And I just want to say we are very honored to have Gary here. My role is just going to touch on some of his accomplishments over time. He's very modest. He's not going to want to say anything. He gave me a couple more input while we were talking outside. But basically, I told him, please correct me if I say the wrong thing. Anyway, this is the fourth of our speaker series put on by the chapel. And so at this point, I just want to touch on some of the key things, some of which you folks know, some of which you don't know. But the most important thing, I think, the gentleman sitting right here with me is regarded as one of the greatest golfers in the world. To quantify that situation, Gary has won the major golf championship that's a PGA event here 9 times. And the champion golf thing is the Masters, is Masters, U.S. Open, PGA, and the British Open. He's won that 9 times. Interesting, in that time, he's one of the only person in the world that is not a U.S. golfer that has won what they call the Grand Slam of golf, and that is to win the Masters, the PGA, the British Open, and to win the U.S. Open. There's only 4 other players in the world that have accomplished that feat. It's Gene Sarazen, Ben Hogan, Jack Nicklaus, and Gary Player for sure, but Tiger Woods. A tremendous accomplishment for sure. Gary also told me this evening, which I was unaware, that he's won the championship 9 times in the Senior Champions Tour, is the only one to do that in the world. So you really... Besides that, some of the facts that many of you may not know, he's won 165 professional golf tournaments in 6 continents over the last 7 decades. He is regarded, and he's a golf architect. Matter of fact, he and I were talking. I know we have some people here on the board, and we're looking at architects for renovation of the Blue Course. My recommendation to the board at this point is at least use Gary as a consultant to those people that are going to do that. He has done this.
It'll be a good job for you ladies.
Yeah, yeah. He's particularly interested with the ladies' tees, right? But to give you a perspective on that, he has designed over 400 courses in 5 continents around the world. So these are accomplishments most people don't know about. He also has 4 major charities that he's involved in that have raised over $60 million for charities that he's involved in. He has written or has been a co-author of 36 golf books. His passion, obviously Vivian, his wife, golf is a real passion, but he's also got a tremendous passion for fitness, for the United States, and for horses. He's got a horse ranch in Africa. He may talk about some of that. I do want to touch on one of his best friends ever, who is not with us today, Dick Schott, who has been with us for a number of years. And because of Dick, Gary is an honorary member of Mariner Sands. But Dick and Gary were together in business with his horse business. His nickname, the Black Knight. He also is known as Mr. Fitness, and now is the international ambassador for golf around the world. Please stand up and put your hands together for Gary Player. Okay, you're on.
Well, the last time I met you, I thought you had a bit of Alzheimer's, but boy, you sharp as a tack now, I'll tell you that.
Did I do it right?
You did a very good job. You don't need a mulligan. Last time you needed a mulligan, now you did it perfectly.
Probably 2.
I know, you one of these days you're gonna qualify for the super senior tour, not super senior tour, and it's for 80 years and over that play in the tournament. You only play 3 holes, and whoever remembers a score wins. So you're a certainty. You qualify. But when I think of Mariner Sand, it's like another home for me. I used to play here with Dick once a week. I love the golf course. I got to know so many of the members and the ambience of this club was absolutely brilliant. And as you can see today, this housing development you've got has gone from strength to strength, and the golf course is a delight. The dining room, I mean, the service that we got there, it was a AAA golf club. Unfortunately, COVID has put so much fear in all of our hearts that it's changed our lives, and we should be putting more effort into saving people with cancer and heart attacks, because those are the real serious diseases, particularly as we get older, which this room consists of mainly people that are over 50. I think I'm being generous at that too. I'd like to welcome my friend here, Dennis Walters. Dennis Walters had an unfortunate accident. He came to South Africa to play our tour, and we played quite a bit together. He beat me on so many occasions. He was such a wonderful young and upcoming golfer, and he had an accident in a cart. And let that be a lesson to you all, that when you drive a golf cart, it's not a toy. A lot of terrible accidents happen with golf carts. Unfortunately, the cart went over him, and he lost the use of his legs. And he didn't lie back and feel sorry for himself. This is a very special man. I played in a golf tournament with him the other day on a par 3 golf course. We had a tournament there, and he's in his cart. He can't get out of his cart. He can't move his hips. He hit one bad shot the whole day. I thought, this is a mirage to see a man in a wheelchair like this, and he played so well, and we won the tournament, which was really great. So Pastor Gary, who is a man I've just met today, and of course, religion to me, I did an interview. Interesting enough, I do more interviews now than I did when I was world champion. And it's wonderful because you can talk about your philosophies and the reasons and why you were so fortunate to win so much and have a success like I did. I never take the success that I said I did it. It was a gift that was loaned to me, not permanent. You can see I can name many players that won the Masters, the British Open, the PGA, US Open. They can't play anymore. They were world champions, and they woke up one day they couldn't play anymore. So it doesn't mean to say, and that applies across the board with life, not necessarily with sports, but with your life. We're all one tick away, and we're all beginning to get closer to visit the man upstairs. And so, or the woman now, you've got to say the woman as well. But Pastor Gary, I've only met him today, but admire him so much. I'm so pleased he's so happy here, because this is a very special house, the house of the Lord. And anyway, so this man asked me in Australia yesterday, he said, what's the most important thing that happened in your life? I said, I don't hesitate. I said, my faith. Because I don't know how you live without faith. And unfortunately, we live in a world now that is changing dramatically, and you people in this room know as well as I do. You know, I remember Khrushchev standing at the United States and thumping on the rostrum, and I'm sure many of you in this room remember that. He said, we will destroy the free world without firing a shot. We'll destroy the churches. We'll destroy the education with young people. We will disturb and ruin the law and order. And he said the family life as well. Well, it's happening right in front of our eyes. And we need people like you and the good people of America to stand up and not let it take place. Because if you're born in this great country, you know, I actually get goose pimples. And I'm not kidding you, sometimes I lie in bed and I cry. Because I'm a bit of a baby, I'm a sentimental baby, but so is my all-time hero, Sir Winston Churchill. And I lie in bed and I have a tear that I was able to be blessed to come to this great land and participate here. And the wonderful times I've had. And I walk around, and I've traveled more miles than any human being that's ever lived, folks. And I walk around in awe, in utter awe, when I look at this great country and I think, what a fabulous place it is. And it just burns my heart when I see young people saying, it's a bad country, they want socialism, etc., etc. You know, it's like a nightmare that's happening to me. Winston Churchill, you know, we all know what an incredible human being he was. You know, September 11 was a dreadful day in our lives But Winston Churchill had September 11 every 2 weeks. They bombed London to smithereens, And the courage that he had and how he inspired people, the adversity that they were going through. Of course, adversity is the greatest gift that is bestowed upon a human being. I don't know anybody who hasn't had adversity. And the ones that know how to handle it become successful. The ones that feel sorry for themselves don't. And so we've got to thank God for the adversity that we have. It's the greatest gift ever bestowed upon me. The reason I became a world champion was under his guidance, but my mother died when I was 8 of cancer. My father died as a young man after working as a poor man all his life. Spoke many languages, 3 black languages, Afrikaans, which is Dutch, English, and a little bit of Portuguese. My brother went to war when he was 17 years of age from South Africa to fight with the Americans. My mother and father said, "You can't go to war at this age." He said, "I'm going." My sister died of cancer. My niece had cancer. My grandson's mother, who's here today, had cancer. My wife right now is dying of pancreatic cancer. So we've been together for 71 years. And it's a very tough time, but it's going to happen to every one of you in this room. And so we've got to learn to face up to adversity, and we've got to make plans ahead. Don't wait until it happens, because it's going to happen to every one of you in this room, as it's happening to me now. So you've got to be prepared, and you've got to make plans. And what are you going to do? And how are you going to live without your husband? And how are you going to live without your wife? And I mean, my wife is lying there in bed now, spending 90% of the bed time in bed. This morning I was going to have a haircut. She says, "Come here, let me see you." And I'll go walk. She says, "Put your belt, come here, let me put your belt buckle straight." I mean, I was spoiled rotten. My wife put my clothes out every day of my life that I played. Now, I want to tell you something. Yeah, and then also traveled from South Africa, 40 hours, no jets. We came 40 hours, stopping 4 times, 6 children on the plane, no beds, no earphones, no TV. You just sat up like this. The kids slept on the floor in those days. You flew amongst the storms, and she traveled with me and helped me to become a world champion. And we all know that no man can be successful, or no woman can be. The women are more independent, they can, but men are babies. We cannot become we cannot become champions without the help of a woman. And so I've been very blessed to have a family of 6 children, 15 American grandchildren, 3 American children of my own, and we have 2 great-grandchildren, and we have 22 grandchildren altogether of all colors and nationalities. It's like a United Nations. It's quite fascinating. So, yes, you've got to be very fortunate in life. A lot of things have got to go for you to do well, and I think the one word is gratitude. One of my favorite sayings, because I never miss one day, ever, that I don't say thank you 5 times. Just coming here today, being here with you people today, I'm grateful. The food that I have, I'm grateful. The clothes I have, a motor car, a beautiful BMW, a beautiful place on Jupiter Island, winning all these tournaments, being healthy. You've got to be thankful. You've got to be grateful. Because I've traveled, and what I've seen with my eyes in India, where you stop at a stop street and you see all these children and their arms are being broken by their parents, so they'll get your sympathy, and you stop, 100 people there, and you look at these people, and here we have a meal, and we push away half the food that we eat, all of us. They don't even have that in a week. We take so many things for granted. And so to have a thankful, appreciative heart is very, very important. I'd like to just say, as we get older, it's fascinating, because one of the things that I like to study, and I'm very, very interested in, is longevity, because life is sweet. And I brought along a little verse here today, which is really remarkable, and it's probably one of the best verses that I've ever read in my life, because it applies to everybody in this room. Yeah, the title is called Youth. It says, youth is not a time of life, which we all know. We are living right now. We're not youthful, but we're still enjoying our lives immensely. It is a state of mind. It's not a matter of rosy cheeks, red lips, and supple knees. It's a matter of the will. We've got to have a will to live. We've got to have a will to be kind and nice to people. A quality of the imagination, a vigor of emotions. It is the freshness of the deep springs of life. Youth means the temperamental predominance of courage over timidity of the appetite, for adventure over the love of ease. This often exists in a man of 60 more than a boy of 20. When you think of today, because of COVID, the number of kids that are committing suicide, the obesity, the divorces, living in a one-room house, etc., 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 it's a tough time. This often exists in a man of 60, I'm being repetitive, of 60 more than a boy of 20. Nobody grows old merely by a number of years. We grow old by deserting our ideals. You start to think you're old. And that's why you're getting old, and you shouldn't be thinking of that. You're going to die, and die like a man. That's my verse. Okay. Years may wrinkle the skin, which we are all so familiar with. There is in every human being's heart the lure of wonder, the unfailing childlike appetite of what's next, and the joy of the game of living. In the center of your heart, and everybody's heart, and my heart, there is a wireless station. So long as it receives messages of beauty, of hope, of cheer, of courage, and the power from the men and from the infinite, so long are you young. When the aerials are down, and your spirit is covered with snows of cynicism, and the ice of pessimism, then you're growing old. Even at 20. But as long as your aerials are up to catch waves of optimism, there is hope. You may die young at 100. Thank goodness for the wisdom of so many people in the world, and education, and to be wise is such a great asset, and to have the opportunity, this great land, the United States of America. There's nothing like it in the world, folks. And when I hear all this criticism and see things that are changing, I just shudder. But we're going to open up this for a little of questions, but I wanted to say something else too, which is I read, which is really fascinating. There was a man we all know called Cicero, who was a very, very great philosopher and leader. And it said something today, it said, there's nothing wrong with being wrong. If anyone can prove and show to me that I think and act in error, I will gladly change it. You can't be stubborn. You can't be obstinate. We all make mistakes. And if somebody wants to help you, accept it. For I seek the truth by which no one has ever been harmed. The one who is harmed is the one who abides in deceit and ignorance. That was Marcus Aurelius. Now it says, someone once attempted to argue with the philosopher Cicero by quoting something he had said or written. This person claimed Cicero was saying one thing now, but he had believed in something different in the past. And we've seen that, and we'll come to that in a minute. His response, I live from one day to the next. If something strikes me as probable, I say it. And that is how, unlike everyone else, I remain a free agent. No one should be ashamed of changing his mind. That's what the mind is for. A foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of the little minds, Emerson said, adored by little statesmen and philosophers and divines. That's why we go through to such lengths to learn and expose ourselves to wisdom. It would be embarrassing if we didn't end up finding out if we were wrong in the past. Remember, you are a free agent. When someone points out a legitimate flaw in your belief or in your actions, you're not necessarily being criticized. They're representing a better alternative. Accept it with humility. And you know, I often hear people say, this politician is a flip-flop. Well, thank God he's a flip-flop. You don't want a man to think the same, as this says, so aptly says, that you've got to be the same all your life. We've all changed your minds, and I have changed my mind. Being at 85 years of old, 85 young years. It's amazing how we change our minds on different things in life, and that's what we're supposed to do. But golf, you know, we all play golf, and I never cease to realize what an incredible game golf. It's a religion, it's a science, and you have to be patient, you can't get irritable, you can't feel sorry for yourself, you can't give up. I mean, you can go on, and all the traits that one has to have in this game. And I loved what Bobby Jones said, you know, he said, and Bobby Jones was probably the greatest, well, he was the greatest amateur that lived. He might be the greatest player that ever lived, because he played with a walking stick as a shaft. He played with a ball that went 80 yards less. He played with spike marks on the green. He raked the bunkers with his feet. There were no rakes. They put the hole in the same place every day. You look at the scores he did. And he had a bit of a temper. He said, you know, I could never adequately describe what a bad shot felt like with the club still in my hand. And I played golf with Tommy Bolt, who was when I first came over here, when I arrived over here, he comes up to me and he says, how you doing, son? He says, where you from? I said, South Africa. He says, South Africa? Where the hell is that? He says, do you pipe the daylight in there? I said, no, not quite. He said, well, now listen, what you got to do when you play golf over here, you got to learn to throw the club well. When you throw the club, he says, you got to throw it like a matador. And you've got to have a pose, otherwise you get the back page. He says, I always get the front page. So I said to him, I said, well, I'd heard of Arnold Palmer, and I said, well, what about Arnold Palmer? He doesn't throw clubs. He didn't like Arnold Palmer, and he didn't like Jack Nicklaus. I don't know why. But he said, Arnold Palmer, his wife is the greatest club retriever the game has ever known. Which she wasn't. And he had on his bag a streak of lightning, and it says, you must buy Tommy Bolt's clubs because they stay in the air longer than anybody else's. But I've seen some wonderful characters of my life, and I really miss my friend Dick Schott, who I came here every week with. I miss my friend Arnold Palmer, who Jack Nicklaus and Arnold and I went around the world time after time playing golf in places you wouldn't believe in. And we didn't do it for big money. I mean, Tiger Woods has offered $3 million to go to the Middle East, and he turns it down, and then they offer him $4 million, and he turns that down. I said to the sheikh there, I said, you give me $1 million, I'll row over here. That's the difference. But no, golf has enabled me to travel, and the people that I've met, every president of the United States, either play golf, be in the White House, or dinner with them. The people around the world in the poor villages of India and the poor villages of Africa, where I learned as much from them as I did from the higher echelon. The humility and the gratitude that they had. There's something to be learned from everybody, as this poem correctly said. So golf, to be able to travel, what an education. I went to my father when I was 17, and I went to a great school in South Africa. South Africa probably have the best high schools in the world. You go to school dressed properly, you say a prayer, you've got all these facilities of sporting facilities, every Olympic pools, education. Kids today in schools there speak 4 or 5 languages. I knew about the Great Lakes of America when I was 9, and the education, the standard of education is extremely high. And so you realize and you appreciate the value of education, which many people in the world are deprived of. But anyway, I went to my dad, who is a miner. He left school in standard 4 years of education, because his parents died and he had a large family. And the only place he could get a job at 15 years of age was down a gold mine, 8,000 feet. A dog's life. A dog's life. Anytime you got a piece of gold on you, value it. Because I think for every ton of rock, you get a little half an ounce of gold, whatever the numbers are. So value it. But anyway, it teaches you when you see how your parents live and what they went through. And now my father's telling me, you cannot turn pro at 17. You've got to go on to university. I said, Dad, the golf business traveling around the world is going to be a university that will be superior to going to a Princeton or a Stanford or whichever one you happen to like. Because I'm going to be going and I'm going to be seeing things that people write about and learn about. And what an education to go to a country and understand that their food is not the same as yours, that their editorial is not the same as yours, and their customs and their culture. And it teaches you to have love in your heart and to have respect for everybody, even though it's not the way you live. So, and my dad was lucky enough to live. He was 6'2", a big man. I often had to check the baker to get my genes to see if I was right. You know, small guy like this. But don't forget, folks, dynamite's small as well. So I was very lucky to have a father that loved golf. And when he won a tournament, he'd stand. I was able to take him from a poor way of living. I bought him a car and a house, and I took him around the world. And when I won these big tournaments, here's this big man crying like a little whip pup. It was quite an experience to have that. So golf has done so much for me. It's quite unbelievable. We're able to raise a lot of money to help people. It is our duty. It is our duty to help people in life to the best of our ability, because every one of us in this room have had help somewhere. And Americans are the great Samaritans of the world. Look what America does. They gave this country, if it wasn't for America, Germany, and Japan, they rebuilt them after a war, after killing our people, the forgiveness that we rebuilt them. And what we've done, or what America's done, I like to say we, because I feel like I'm an American, and I've got 15 American grandchildren and 3 children that are Americans, and I've been coming here for over 60 years, and I feel like I'm an American. But we got to realize what Samaritans America have been. They've helped so many people, so many charities around the world. Your missionaries. My one son, my grandson, he gave up 2 years of his life for his church in Spain. Wonderful education. He speaks Spanish fluently today. My daughter gave up 2 years of her life serving the church. My grandchildren are doing that now. And so they walk the walk. And so the word that comes back to me consistently is gratitude to live in a country like this. And I just cannot stand it when I hear them saying bad things about this country. I only wish that I had the money of Bill Gates, where I could take one student from every university in the United States and give him a first-class air ticket and go to some of these countries. Zimbabwe, which is right next to South Africa, was a country flourishing. It was like Texas, flourishing. Best farmers in the world, great golf courses, hotels, flourishing. What happened? Socialism. Finished. A dinner could cost you $1 million. One dinner. $1 million. And then you go to Venezuela. Just try and go and live in China for a year, see how it is. But don't go and live in the big hotels. See that pollution and how they live. Or go to Russia. Or go to some of these countries around the world. For one day you need these young boys to go there. They'll come back. They'll never talk about socialism again. Never. When they can see it. They have no idea. The American youth at the universities are the most naive students on the planet. They have no idea. I come back to my all-time Winston Churchill, Sir Winston Churchill. A command of the English language like you've never experienced in your life, beyond one's belief. A sense of humor and leadership, where he didn't talk about it, he was right in there with them. And he said socialism, he says there are only 2 places in the world where it exists. One in heaven, where they don't need it, and the other is in hell, where they need it every day. He said it's a failed system. It's a system of envy, a system of other people spending your money. So these kind of things do perturb me in the long run when I see that's happening. When I think of golf, what an ambassadorial role it's been for the United States and for my country, because South Africa, as small as it is, it's probably the highest standard of living. If you got some money, it's probably the highest standard of living in the world. The best climate, the best beaches, beautiful hotels. Yes, we have big problems, but everywhere has problems. So, but golf has done so much for so many people. It's changed so many people's lives. When I think of the blind people playing golf, they get such joy out of it. What would you do if you were blind? Just think about it for a minute. Charlie Boswell, who was blind, loved golf. I'm playing at Augusta. Now, not even the president is allowed on the fairway at Augusta. Here comes this man under the ropes. And it's Charlie Boswell. I said, Charlie, you're not allowed out here. He says, don't worry, I'm not going to be long. He says, I'm just coming to confirm our game that we're having next week. I said, Charlie, I've got it all in my diary. Don't worry. I said, Charlie, how many shots do you want? Quickly, how many shots do you want next week? He's blind now. He says, I don't want any shots. I said, what are you talking about? You don't want any shots? I can't play against the blind man. What are the conditions? He says, we're playing at my home course at midnight. And he's going to beat you. Please believe me, he's going to beat you. And then you see a man like Dennis Walters here, my hero, this guy, my hero, because he never complains. He's out there. You know what he's done? He has done over 3,000 performances for people around the globe, and they look at him, and man, he makes them. When they look at him, they make them say to themselves, thank you that I can walk and get around. And he does it with vigor and determination and faith. And he has such enthusiasm. And enthusiasm is one of the great essences of life. I don't want to be around these miserable SOBs, man. I don't want to be around them, man. You know, I don't want to be around a chick that does like this. I want to hug a chick. They say there's COVID, you mustn't touch women. I hug them, I pick them up, man. Take a picture of me. I shake hands with people. I'm not going to let something like that ruin my life. If I get it, I get it. If I die in America. How much better can it be? But you've got to treat it with respect, obviously. I understand the respect about it. But I listened to this guy, Dr. Fauci, my one. You know, I think I'm seeing things. 2 weeks ago, he said you've got to wear 2 masks. Then he said you've got to have a mask forever. And then last night he says you don't need it right outside. I mean, the guy needs to see a psychiatrist. He should put a mask around his whole face. I mean, he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. But anyway, what I wanted to say to you guys, you know, I'm never short of words. Which is important. Is important because golfers and athletes are renowned as very poor speakers. And if I was a manager of a golfer today, you see, they're making so much money today that the managers are only concerned how much money their client's making. And that's wrong. You've got to create an image. You've got to create a future. You've got to contribute to society. However, golfers are very good at that. They raise more money than any other 2 sports put together. On the PGA, they're up to over $3 million. $3 million, think about that. And how they help the different charities. And that's what I said earlier. We all have a debt to society if we're in our positions to help in just some little way. So, would you like to ask me some questions, or would you like me to continue? I'll answer some questions. Who's got some questions? Anything you like. Yes, sir.
Gary, I remember exactly 10 years ago, you would remember, I know Dick Schott was one of your very best friends.
Mm-hmm.
And Dick and I were very good friends. And we went out on the Gold Course on a Thursday morning when the men were playing on the other course, and just the 3 of us played. And we got to the 3rd hole, which is a par 5 hole, and Dick was over, and you were telling me about your diet and eating and doing push-ups with one arm. Mm-hmm. And then you got up and you said, 76 years old. I said, Gary, I can't do a push-up with one arm, but 78 years old. and you laugh. But Dick tells me this story. I don't want to embarrass you. I don't think I will. He said you used to come and play with him a lot on Sunday mornings, and he would always drive you home.
Yes, he did.
And he would. And I know you had a very strict diet, but he said every time he'd drive you home, a lot of the times you'd stop at this grocery store. and go in and get yourself a couple of Snicker bars
Right.
and eat them before you got home. I don't know if it's doing that.
Yeah, but what he failed to tell you, that when I bought the Snicker bars, I didn't even take the paper off. I just ate the whole damn thing. Yeah, we all have our weaknesses. And I'm very much a sweet tooth, trying my best not to, because sugar is the big, big enemy. It's the enemy of one's life. And, with the highest standard of living, very few people, if you take America, as I said, without being repetitive, on a serious note, South Africa and America, because of our high standard of living, are the most obese people in the world. And what is causing more diseases than anything you can think of is obesity. And it's so hard. I mean, now with COVID, when I was on my farm in South Africa, I was up at 5:30 in the morning, working hard. Then I'd come and play some tournaments, and I'd go back again, going to bed at 9:30. Now, what do? I'm living on Jupiter Island. I don't have a farm, so I watch. I'm a political animal. I love to watch the politics. I don't put on CNN, but I love to watch all these other stations to see what's happening. And I go to bed at 11:30 at night, and I get up at 7:30 and 8 o'clock. I never did that in my life. And so what have I done? I haven't seen my knees in the last 5 years. So I put on about 8 pounds, and my goodness me, I'm going to get that off, because a very astute Indian scientist told me when I was 82 years of age. His name was Mr. Professor Singh. He said to me, he said, Gary, I believe you really watch your physical fitness. I said, yes. And I said, look at this man. I said, I'm like a plank, man. I'm like a 50-year-old. So he said, the first test you won't pass. I said, what are you talking about? He says, when you were in your prime, what age were you? I said, probably 25, 27, 28, 29. He said, what did you weigh? I said, 153. He says, what do you weigh now? I said, 163. Bad, he says, very bad. He says, there's no part of your body. And he says, this is the secret to longevity. I do believe the other things. But he said, you have got to be 5 pounds lighter now than you were in your prime. Well, who the hang is? We all eat like it's the Last Supper. And it might be the Last Supper. But it's so hard to keep that weight down. It's not easy. And it's a massive effort. To be a success in anything takes discipline and hard work, and it's not easy. And now I'm starting now. I looked at my tummy in the mirror today. I said, no, I've got to stop. I haven't had breakfast, really a proper breakfast now, probably in 3 weeks. I haven't sat down. I might have had one, but I'm missing breakfast. The wrong idea. You've got to miss dinner. You've got to miss dinner. You can have a good breakfast. I think it was Shakespeare said, eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. So, but I've been having these dinners, and I'm glad. My son's sitting here, gives me hell all the time. But I'm gradually getting to where I'm going to start having no dinners. You don't put gas in your car when you park it in the garage at night. That explains it. Right across the board. But man, I tell you, we all suffer from the right elbow. None of us keep the elbow in. So then this lady from Myanmar, she says, the secret to living well and living long are 4 things. Eat half as much. Number 2, exercise. Keep your body moving every day. Number 3, laugh 3 times as much as you should do. It's the endorphins, it's the youthful cells, and the reason why I'm so damn well and so damn young is because I laugh all day long. I tease my grandchildren, even my wife who's dying there, I tease her, I tease everybody, and I laugh all day long. And I'm telling you, we live in a world now, it's not so much the United States of America now, it's a divided America now. And we've got to get together. And we've got to learn to laugh. And if somebody's a Biden fan, I'm a Trump fan. If somebody's a Biden fan, I have respect for him. My dad always said, listen to somebody. You'll learn somebody if he's your opposite to you. And so if somebody's a Biden fan, I have nothing but respect for him, but have respect for me too. But today, you're a Biden or a Trump fan, they want to fight you. Literally fight you or kill you. Not fight you, kill you. I mean, this is crazy. And so, and this lady said, and she said, the fourth thing is unmeasured love in your heart. And if you have those 4 assets, you're going to live a long time, unless you're just very, very unlucky. But you know what? There's nobody in this room that can do it. I really don't believe it. It's the hardest thing on the planet. It's like when you play golf. Whenever I watch everybody putt, I say to them, you got to keep your head still. The ball's got a lot of dimples on it. That little ball's got a lot of dimples. When you look at the ball, look at one dimple. Just take one dimple. Only one. And look at that dimple. Now look at your line and look at your speed. Now look at that one dimple and see your putter hit that dimple and then say 1, 2, and then look. But the minute you move your head, look, this is your putter. Look what happens to your putter when you move your head. You're gone. If you move your head 1/16th of an inch, you're gone. You've got to try and listen for it. When I play in a tournament, I wanted to beat Nicklaus to win the Grand Slam in 1965. And Jack Nicklaus was actually, who's my best friend, and is the greatest gentleman I ever played golf with, other than my friend Dennis Walters here. So he says, Gary, come with me. You want to win the Grand Slam, I want to win it. Come with me to St. Louis a week early and forget about going to Greensboro. I said, Jack, it's all well for you. I need the money, man. I've got a lot of children, big expenses. I've got to win the tournament to break even the way my kids eat. So he says, come with me. So I reluctantly went with him to St. Louis, and I practiced there for the week. And what I did, no athlete ever trained for an event like that, I don't think. I never went out one night. I stayed in my room. I visualized, I prayed, not to win, to have courage, to accept the bad parts of the game, to have courage when you miss a putt, never to feel sorry for yourself, to be positive all the time and believe you're going to win, and when you hit a bad shot, everybody hits bad shots. It's impossible. Tiger Woods hits 8 a round and he still shoots 63. So when you hit a bad shot, don't get upset, because you're going to continue hitting bad shots till the damn day you die. And when you hit a bad shot, just say, next one, next one. And I got up every morning at 6 o'clock, because I went to bed very early. And I went, they had a scoreboard. There's a massive scoreboard that the United States Golf Association have. And all the winners are on the name on the board. And in gold letters, it was Ken Venturi, because he won it in 64, so it was still freshly painted. And I sat in front of the like this. Now that, you see how I'm sitting now with your legs parallel to the ground. That is very, very difficult to do. And I sat there like that every morning for 5 minutes, okay, like this. And I sat and I looked at that scoreboard. And I said, Gary Player, Gary Player, Gary Player. And I visualized my name on that board. And then I'd go home and I'd stand in front of the mirror. And I'd say, okay, you will never feel sorry for yourself. You will never give up. You will keep. Every night I had this Nivea. I always remember Nivea cream. I hit my face so damn hard I put the Nivea cream on. I was like a punch-drunk boxer. Man, did I train. I did my exercise. I went to a Catholic church. I'm not a Catholic. I love the Catholics, but I'm not Catholic. And I went to the church, and I never prayed to win, Gary. I prayed for courage, to see my putter hit that dimple, and to be patient. And I went through all the rigmaroles, and I won it. And I was 29 to win the Grand Slam, youngest man ever. And I said to my wife, who was a very good golfer, in fact, my wife had 2 holes in one in the same round. And I tell you what, When I won a Masters the first time in 1961, I went back to South Africa and I said, we'll have a game today. And I said, I'll give you 5 shots. You play of your tees, I'll play of mine. She said, no, we'll play you even. I shot 69 and I lost. And that's when I decided to have 6 kids quickly. So, you see, my wife always had me where I want her, you see. But the thing is that now I'm talking a bit of a big jaw in front of when my wife's not here. But anyway, so I said to my wife, nobody will ever win the Grand Slam at 29 again. Nicholas came along and did it at 26. Tiger Woods, the greatest sporting achievement in the history of our planet, in my humble opinion. He wins the Grand Slam at 24. Most pros haven't played in a Grand Slam event at 24. I mean, it's a miracle. It's just not humanly possible. And I'm not going to say it will never, ever happen again, because the human being is an amazing animal. And we haven't learned to use our mind. We're in our infancy with the mind. Einstein said if you could use 15%, what a difference would it make? Well, the way we're going with techniques and technology, we'll get to 20% maybe in my grandchildren's time. But the mind is so fascinating. Why did I win all these championships? I don't hit the ball as well as a lot of these guys do. A lot of them hit the ball way better than me. Tom Weisskopf was a way better golfer than Jack Nicklaus and only won 1 major. Why did I win all these tournaments when these guys I played with, they were better than me? Every practice round, these guys looked at me, I could see what they were thinking. How the hell is this guy winning all these majors? I'm better than him. But when the bell went, you see, there's a big difference. The mind. You've got to believe you're the best. A lot of these guys strut out there. Huh, I'm the best. As soon as they get on that first tee, you know, suddenly they don't believe they're the best. When that big pressure's there, they don't believe it. And so that's a big asset, to believe in it. And it's a little thing people invariably say to me, Gary, why and how did you win all those big championships against Palmer and Nicklaus and all the Ben Hogan and all these guys? How did you do it? I said, I don't know. I said, it's a little thing called it. They said, what is it? I said, I don't know. No analyst can tell you what it is. No psychiatrist can tell you what it is. No pro golfer can tell you what it is. It's a little thing called it, in my opinion. And you see, this is where people would ridicule me, and I have been ridiculed because of my faith. But if you love the Lord, you can take, if Jesus died at the cross, I can take somebody teasing me. And I just say, it's a special gift alone from the man above. He said, why did they give it to you? I said, I don't know. You know, the Yiddish boy and the Italians, I've got Yiddish boys and Italians in my family, they always go. So I must tell you, I'm at a Jewish club in South Africa, and these guys, most of my dear friends are Jewish guys, and they're fantastic. And they sponsored me to go overseas the first time. Free food at the club, free boarding, and I'd made 30 pounds a month. In those days, it were $4 to the pound. The pound was stronger than the dollar. And so it was $120 I made a month. And then I stayed at the club, and this one guy, Mo Cohen, every Friday night, he'd wake me up at 10:30 because I had to be down in the pro shop early. And he says, we got the pigeons. Come in here. I'd get my pajamas off, and I'd go into the snooker room, and he'd say, look, here are our guys. There are 10 guys here. They're each putting £1 in for you to walk around the snooker table on your hands. So I'd get up on the snooker table and walk around there. So I made £40 a month walking around the snooker table and £30 working. And I bought my wife, just to tell you how I love my wife. Man, we have given each other so much love for 70 years. And you know how I met her, ladies? I was doing some exercises in my yard in a very poor suburb. And there was a neighbor's wall next door to us, a man from England. And I couldn't see over the wall, so we always put a rock there so I could greet him. So my brother says, you've got to come and see this little chick on the other side of the wall here. So I stand up on the wall like this, and I look over like this. I looked at her. I said, you know, Christopher, I'm going to marry that girl. He said, what are you talking about? You've just seen her for 5 seconds. I said, I'm going to marry her. Well, I did. Isn't life strange, huh? See, those little things called it. So many things happen in the world that you can't describe. Every one of you have had something in your life, you say, how did that possibly happen? But it does. And what happens to you might not happen to somebody else. So there are a lot of things that are hidden behind the bush that we don't know. But no, it's fantastic to see women's golf coming along so well. Man, I played with these girls in the last few years, and man, can they hit that ball. And I always said to my wife, there'll never be a lady that will outdrive me, never. Now I play with them, and I always say, when I see how far they hit, I said, my shoulder's sore today. You know? Man, can they hit it? They can flat, solid hit it. It's unbelievable to see. So golf is a very, 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 very exciting game. It's done so much for people. It's given them new lives. We built AIDS centers in China through golf. We built a homeless. I was walking in London with a sponsor of mine called Berenberg Bank in London. And I went past 2 or 3 bridges and I saw these people sleeping under the bridges. It's like yesterday, very vivid in my mind. And I said, you know, can't we do something for these people? So we built a home for them, a beautiful home with all the facilities that are needed. Those guys that were lying under the bridge that they were calling bums are now doctors and lawyers as such because of the facilities. In South Africa, through golf, I built churches, I built schools, I sponsored black golfers to go overseas. We did all kinds of things to change. Lee Elder, the African-American golfer who was on the tee 2 weeks ago at Augusta, I asked him to come to South Africa in 1970 in the midst of apartheid, and he was scared to come, and the Black Caucus were against him coming, vehemently against him coming, and I was called a traitor in South Africa because I was inviting a black man to come and play in a white country, so to speak. He came, I was called a traitor, and he played, and they gave him standing ovations. You see, it's never the people, it's always the government. And the people loved him, and he did well, and he really contributed to society. And to see him on the first tee there at Augusta, where a black man was not allowed to play. It's interesting, you see, you can't go back, and this is what I don't understand about a LeBron James and these. And look, I have respect for I really have respect for people's point of view. But when I see a man burning the American flag, my brother said to me, Gary, that American flag, one thing I learned, it's not a Republican, it's not a Democrat, it's not a Muslim, it's not a Hindu, it's not a Buddhist, it's freedom. So the flag doesn't know about all these political things. It stands for freedom. And if you don't like freedom, get the hell out of here. You don't have to stay here. Now, I'm not saying you've got to get the hell, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying you've got to get the hell out of here for your political views, because you're entitled to have whatever, if it's militant, whatever it is, I respect that. But the flag is something different. And I don't believe, when I see them play the national anthem, I put my hand on my heart, because I know what America's done. And I will never, ever kneel. Never, never. I wouldn't do it. If they want to do it, that's fine. But this is the way I look at it, and having had the experience, which these athletes have not had the experience today, I've had it, because I'm 85. When I first came to this great country in 1957, I went down to California, and I'm playing in the tournament, and I met Charlie Sifford, the African-American golfer. I said, Mr. Sifford, I've heard about you. How did you play today? He says, I've never played. I said, what are you talking about? He says, I'm not allowed to play. So I went to the PGA and tried to do what I could, and then he asked me to come up to Cleveland to help him raise some funds, because then he was accepted to play, and I went up there and I helped him raise money. He never forgot it. When he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, can you believe it? He asked a whitey from South Africa to induct him into the Hall of Fame. That's the biggest honor I've ever had in my life, is the Medal of Freedom in America. That's the greatest honor can be bestowed upon in my entire life. But that wasn't far behind, asking a white South African to induct him into the Hall of Fame. That was something very, very special. And he was like Martin Luther King. He fought for his freedom. And he said, and what he did was, He never came back and say how bitter he was. You can't live with bitterness in your heart. You can't live like that, irrespective what you did. And he said, I've got to encourage young black kids to play, not look back. Yes, we won't forget, but encourage them to keep building and being positive. And this is what a guy like LeBron James should be doing. He should be encouraging young blacks and say, it was tough, we had it tough. Yes, there's some racism here, but there's racism everywhere in every country in the world. America's not a racist country. You have a lot of racists, certainly. You have a lot, but it's not a racist country. And to hear them saying this and putting young people to become militant is the wrong thing to do. They should be encouraging me, say, look, I make $200 million a year. $200 or $300 million a year. Michael Jordan was smart. He said, I don't say anything because Republicans and Democrats all buy sneakers. He was smart. You see? So he was smart. So, but you've got to, I come back to being positive. I can understand. Look, I played in 1969 at Dayton, Ohio, because I was from South Africa. It was a way to get across their demonstrations and their hatred for apartheid. And so I played in the PGA and I lost by 1 shot. They threw ice in my eyes. This is during the tournament. They threw telephone books in my back at the top of my backswing. They charged me on the greens, tore up the greens to pieces, threw balls between my legs when I was putting. I lost it by 1 shot. I had no hatred. I had no hate for those people whatsoever. None whatsoever. Could have. Denying me to win a major championship. You know, winning a PGA is like winning Wimbledon or the US Open or whatever it may be. But you can't live with that in your heart. You've got to go ahead. And you've got to try and get the people that are following you to be positive and to build a great America. Not be bitter and saying, I'll clobber that policeman or this or that, this and that. Man, I don't know what you do without policemen. Yeah, there's some baddies. There's some baddies and they've got to be kicked out of the police force. But next time you're in trouble, try calling a hippie. Okay, I've said a lot of things. Next question.
Gary.
But before I do, sorry, sir. You see this gentleman with the gray hair, how he talks about playing? We had a $10 Nassau. I'm still waiting to get paid.
Gary, you were talking earlier, just a little while ago, about the women hitting the ball so far. What do you think is happening to the golf game today? You know, where this 350-yard drives to 300 yards just seems to be a commonplace. I mean, when you grew up hitting balata balls and straddle block construction heads, what's happened to the game? Where do you think the distance is coming from?
I'm very upset about it because I don't believe you can't. You see, what the situation we are having at the world at the moment, we're running out of water. You guys will see what I'm saying tonight. My brother was the world's leading conservation. We are running out of water. By the year 2025, the world will be 25% short of water. Whether they get it from humidity or some other way is debatable, and we'll wait to see. So we can't build golf courses and make them any longer. That's the one thing that we cannot do. The great joy that I have of being a golf architect, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But anyway, so now you see them hitting, they're hitting the ball 400 yards, not 350. And you know what's going to happen? They're going to hit it 500. You haven't had a big man come into golf yet, not one. What I call a big football player. You've never had a LeBron James, a Michael Jordan, one of these guys play golf. When they come, it's going to be 500 yards. So what's going to happen to your golf course? You can't make it longer because financially you can't afford to do it. No club can do it other than Augusta. And they all said, we're going to make it longer. And I said, well, embarrassingly, I was embarrassed later. I said, they can't put the tees in the streets. What did they do? They bought the highways. And they're putting the tees in the streets to make it longer. But you can't afford the water, the fertilization, the labor, the machineries. I wonder if your members here realize just how much that mower costs. It's frightening. So you can't keep going and making the golf courses longer. And the members don't want that. These members here don't want to play a golf course with bunkers this deep and undulating greens. They don't want that. They want to come out here. They live in a place. They want to enjoy themselves. They have enough misery at home fighting between wife and husband sometimes. They want to go to the golf course and come home and after having shot 90 when they're a 5 handicap or a 10 handicap. And so I have a different philosophy of golf courses. And we've done hundreds around the world. You can't build golf courses with undulating greens, number one. You can put a slight gentle slope. Remember this, the average golfer cannot play golf at all, really. Thank God you got a handicap, which makes golf so great. You have a handicap, which enables you to play well. You cannot build double trouble. You cannot have a bunker on the right and water on the left. It's double trouble. You don't want that. If you want to have water, have an open space on the right so that at least the member can bail out. They're building golf courses. Now you cannot even bail out. I look at every golf course I go to, the same. Every bunker is white sand and green grass. You've got to build bunkers. We built a golf course in India. It was number 1 in India. You should see this bunkering. First of all, it saves a fortune of money by not having to weed it and water it and spend time on it, and the ball gets buried in the bunkers we're building today. You never get a buried ball in the bunkers that we're designing now. You don't have to cut the faces. You don't have to water the faces. You've got to build low-maintenance golf courses and golf courses with wider fairways and let the members enjoy themselves. And the ladies, I love these golf architects, you know. I love these golf architects. They build a golf course. They cannot play with a dam, but they're building a golf course. That's something I'll never understand. You know, it's like me going into your businesses, whatever you were, trying to do your job. I'll survive, but I won't do well. And so now the ladies, I hit a drive in a 3-iron, and they've got the ladies hitting, I hit a drive in a 7-iron, but the ladies hitting a drive in a 3-wood. Is that right? It should be the other way around. We're the ones who've got the strength. The golf courses are too long for the ladies. They always build 1 or 2 tees. You should let the ladies have some choices. After all, you've got 50% of your club as women. And a lot of these architects, they don't worry enough about the women. Now look at your bunkers. I want you to have a look at some of your bunkers on this golf course because I know this course well. Here's the bunker, here. Here's your green. From the bunker, it goes down like that. Have a look. It slopes down like that. And here's the pin. You get the best bunker shot of your life. Over there. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy not to even give you a chance because they don't play golf and they don't understand it. And so the way you build your golf course, it's got to be wider fairways, softer fairways, but bunkers with some character, something different. When you go over here, the people say, man, I enjoyed playing it. It's got a different look about it. It's got beauty. You've got to have beauty on a golf course because the average person is under strain every week, or they retired, they want to have beauty. And beauty makes a golf course. The way you put the trees and the way you do your tire setup, your driving range, all these things are important. Can't just put it together. I think too many golf courses are just put together. But and I'm very much against what they're doing now. They got to leave the golf equipment as it is for you guys. Don't touch it. Let you guys have anything you like that can make you play better. But for us, you've got to cut the ball back 50 yards. And you've got to have Trevino's a clever man. He says, the shortest club in your bag must be your putter, 52 inches. So now if it's 52 inches, you can't hold the putter up against your chest. Can't do it. Then you don't have a controversy. Now you start saying all these things, it's a great controversy. Just make that rule. But for you guys, use the long putter. So many guys in this room had the yips. Then they come out and say, and they had the bunker, the putter anchored here, and they putted beautifully, and they got rid of the yips. Now they come out of the rule, you may not use that long putt anymore. Are you crazy? You're chasing those people away. They were just enjoying themselves. Use the long putter if you want to. Don't stop the people from doing that. But for pros, no long putters. No anchoring. No anchoring. And don't let the ball go 500 yards in the future. Otherwise, the golf courses are going to be obsolete. Change is the price of survival. So we've got to make the changes that are necessary. And the way we're going at the moment is crazy. Crazy. I mean, look, the big thing that wins golf tournaments is a different league to you guys. The thing that wins with us, everybody's inundated with long hitting. DeChambeau is not winning a lot of golf. He's winning, but he's not winning every week the way you think he is. The guy who wins the tournament is the man who putts well, always the putting. Because if that's the cup, here's a ball. That's the same as a 400-yard drive. And so it's the putting that wins the tournaments and the mind. Those two things win tournaments. Tiger Woods is one of the worst drivers of a golf ball I ever saw. Phil Mickelson. He doesn't know what the fairway is. and yet they were number 1 and 2 in the world. Number 1 and 2 in the world because, man, you know, a champion, a superstar, you guys use the word superstar too lightly. I think you've got to win 6 majors to be a superstar. But anyway, that's my opinion. Some of them hit the ball so badly. But, man, they had that thing called it. And they could score like... Tiger Woods in Hawaii hit 2 fairways and shot 63. That's talent. That's talent. So I'm very perturbed. You see, we live in a very litigious society. And people are scared. We're becoming scared to say our points of view. We're worrying about the freedom. We're scared to say this. You know, you've got to have your say. That's your right to have your say. And I'll tell you one thing. I'm very concerned about what's happening in golf with golf courses. And it's going to change. As sure as I'm standing here, they will cut the ball back when they see guys already at Chambro. They're talking about him driving the first hole at Augusta next year. Can you imagine that? Bobby Jones would turn in his grave, laddie. So you hit the nail on the head. The ball goes 50 yards further than when we played. Jack Nicklaus hit a drive in Ohio in 1961, 341 yards with a wooden head, a heavy shaft, almost a chamois grip, epoxy in the head, and with a binding around. And with that lousy ball, hit at 341. Where would he have hit it? 400 today. So I don't know where it's going. Bobby Jones just astounds me. I'll come back to he played with a walking stick in his club. Lousy old head, chamois grip. And I mean, the ball went 80 yards less now. And the scores he did were remarkable, remarkable. So, no, it's going to happen. They're going to have to cut it back as sure as I'm standing here. Whether I'll be alive or not, I don't know. I'm hoping I'll stay alive to see it. Anybody else?
I am. Gary, this is not necessarily a question, but something that happened in my past. When I learned how to play golf about 10 years ago, I was up at the practice green, at the putting green, and I was putting. This is going back to your story about putting and not lifting your head. And as you drove by with your wife in the cart, as a matter of fact, you yelled out to me, "You're lifting your head. Stop lifting your head." I never, ever forgot that. So I am a good putter. I'm a crappy golfer, but I'm a good putter. And every time I putt something that's extraordinary, my husband says to the group around us, "Gary Player was her coach." So thank you. Thank you.
And you know what? I got 0% of her winnings. She's got what I call a man with deep pockets and short arms. Anybody else got a question? Anything you like, anything.
When was the last time you did 1,000 push-ups?
No, I went to the gym yesterday and I didn't do 1,000 push-ups like I used to. Sit-ups, because this is the thing you've got to keep strong. Because this holds your body together. This prevents back problem. It keeps you walking. It keeps you moving. That's the thing. So, but yesterday I actually did 300 crunches with a 50-pound weight on my chest. I did that. And then I did some very extensive sit-ups, full sit-ups on a bench. And then I did the deadlift here, like that, because that's a great exercise. But I do everything. I run on the treadmill at max, and I do arms and I do neck, because neck, when you hit a ball, is under big pressure. When you shoot like that, it's amazing that pressure in your neck. So I exercise my hands, my forearms, every part of my body, my calves, my thighs, everything. I just do it. And I tell you, it's worth it. It is so worth it to get to 85 and feel like you're 50. I mean, I'm still, really, if I come and play here tomorrow and I play off the members' tees, which is still a good golf course, I shoot par here tomorrow. At 85, I beat my age 3,000 times minimum in a row. In a row. I mean, if I have a 75, I don't want to talk to anybody. Not really. But, I mean, it's amazing what you can do. We are built to live to 100, folks. And I'll tell you what, your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren, 100 will be absolutely normal. It'll be older, because if you look at Cleveland Clinic and the scientists, they are going to rejuvenate your cells. You'd go in there. What's your age, sir? What's your age? 91. Oh, man, I picked on the right man. You're going to come to my damn funeral. 91. They'll be able to go to him. This is amazing. This is the head of Cleveland Clinic telling me this, Dr. Roizen. We'll go to him, and he says, around about 14 years, 10 to 14 years' time, we'll rejuvenate his cells in his body. Rejuvenate them and give him an extra 15 years of life. No, and you won't, your great-great-grandchildren will not eat anything you eat. They won't eat white bread. They won't eat bacon. They won't touch milk other than a little bit in their tea or coffee. They won't be eating the things you eat. They won't be having the sugar that we eat. What will they eat? You see, that's the question that keeps coming up. Now, my daughter was getting fat. She became a vegan. You should see what she looks like now. Many of my family are actually. And I believe in a plant-based diet. I don't do it. I try and do as much as I can, but I'm not a plant-based diet. But I'm gradually going that way inclined. Thank goodness my grandson here makes the best salad I've ever had. Dark greens. I said to her, what are you going to eat? Well, I went to a place. She said, would you like a cottage pie? Do you know what cottage pie is? I said, yes. So I had the cottage pie. I said, that's the best I've ever had. She said, it wasn't meat. Fooled me. There's so much to eat if you study it. And the world is moving that way very, very quickly, let me tell you. Very quickly, it's moving flat out. So there's so much to eat. So much. There's actually more to eat than a normal person's diet. But I'm not going to give you all the answers because I don't know. Yes, sir.
Gary, when you were in your prime, the TV announcers used to say that you were happier in a trap than you were in the rough. Is that true?
Correct. I've got to tell you a lovely story. I've got my 2 grandsons that I play a lot of golf with, and I've got another grandson in South Africa, all very good golfers. So we're playing up in near Augusta in a little town there called Macon. So we go out there, we come to the last hole, and this other grandson always says, all right, Gramps, I want a $5 closest to the pin out of the bunker. I said, Geordie, you know, this is like taking candy from a kid. I said, you're still working. I feel guilty when I take your money. No, come on, I want to play you. So now he says, Gramps, and all the members are sitting on the clubhouse there. They're coming onto the green. He says, Gramps, I want to play you for $20, 2 balls each. Okay, you want to do it? He gets up, hits the first one 2 feet. 2 feet. I said, well done, you're getting closer to the hole. Would you believe it? The next one he puts in the hole. So he grabs his club and he runs around the green like a Zulu with a spear. I've got my grandpa. I've got at last, I've got him. I've got his $20. I said, Jordan, I haven't played yet. Give me a chance. So I get out, that far from the hole. Well done, he says, Gramps, that's great, but that's not it. Next one in the hole. Well, he lay on the green, you would have thought I'd poisoned him. But you think at least he would learn. So now 2 days ago, we're playing at Loxahatchee. Out of the bunker the last time. Gramps, come on, I want to play you for $5. I said, Jordan, when are you going to learn, man? Give those $20 to charity, not to me. He says, come on. He gets out, he goes, puts it that far from the hole. Now, the odds are he's going to win. I don't care if you put Tiger Woods or anybody. I was a better bunker player than Tiger Woods. So I'm not boasting. But I was the best because I spent my life, I was like Lawrence of Arabia in the sand. So I get out and he plays it like that. So help me, I'm thinking to myself, gee, The chances are 1 out of 10 I can hit it closer. I put it like that. He said, come on, double or quits. I said, Jordan, when are you going to learn? Psst, he puts it like that. Guess where I put the next one? In the hole. He actually was mesmerized. Maybe he'll cool it for a while now. But I'm playing in Texas in 1957. And this cowboy comes out, because I'm a cowboy at heart. I love nature and I love animals. He's standing there with his beautiful cowboy hat on, this beautiful western suit with a tie and beautiful boots. And I'm hitting bunker shots and he's watching me. And I go, psst, I hit one in the hole. He says, man, that was pretty good, son. He says, you think you could do another one? I said, no, the odds are remotely against me, but I'll try. Psst, in the hole. He says, son, he takes out of his pocket his wallet, 500, I'll never forget, brand new $100 bills. He said, if you can hold another one, I'll give this to you. So help me, I'll get up and psst. I've only done that about 3 times in my life. Psst, in the hole. He's chewing Red Man tobacco. He says, that's the luckiest shot I ever saw in my life. And I said, well, my bank manager is going to be the luckiest guy in the world as well. So we're both lucky. But I said, sir, and it's just spontaneous. I said, the harder you practice, the luckier you get. And that became a very world-famous saying. Yes, so we got somebody at the back of the bus there.
Gary, who was the greatest player that you ever played with, and who do you fashion as the best player today in golf?
The best player I ever saw, best golfer I ever saw in my life was Ben Hogan. Sam Snead right behind him. Not necessarily the best scorer. I've never seen anybody swing the club like Ben Hogan and Sam Snead. There's nobody playing today. The closest comes to those two guys are Rory McIlroy. But the best scorer, if you said, would I rather swing like they did, or would I rather have Tiger Woods' record, I'd take Nicklaus's record. 18 majors. It's in the record book. Tiger Woods has got 15. So I'd rather have that. Now, if Tiger Woods had made the right, I'm doing a book now, and we're going to do a chapter on if. If I'd chosen the right woman, I wouldn't be living in misery. If I made the right decision and invested properly, I wouldn't be bankrupt. If I'd signed that contract when I was offered a lot of money, I should have taken the money, but I didn't, so if is gone. I can go, we've got a whole chapter on ifs. If so-and-so did this. If Tiger Woods never had the problems that he had, he would have been the greatest player the world had ever seen. He's definitely the most talented golfer that ever lived. But he never did it. He's got 15, and Jack's got 18. Will he win the Tiger Woods? Will he win another 3? Who knows? Only God knows. If he does, he's the greatest. But he hasn't done it yet. And it's with his accident, I don't know. Ben Hogan, I think, had an accident, was a little bit more serious. But and he came back and he won majors. Tiger Woods, he is Tiger Woods. He is something sensational. He might be able to come back and do it. So, if you said to me, whose record would I like to have in golf? We all had different desires. I wanted to be the best, have the best golf record in the world. So I didn't want to just play in America or Britain, I wanted to travel around the world and accumulate records, winning the Australian Open 7 times, the South African Open 13 times, Brazil, China, Japan. I wanted to do that because to me that was a challenge, to travel there with a time change, get off a plane, not know the people, and to be able to beat the guys, the local guys. To me, that was the big ultimate challenge. So that was my desire, and I achieved the best record in the world. But of whose record is the best on paper? Nicklaus has 18 majors, and second, 19 times. 19. I mean, that's phenomenal. But only your wife and your dog know who's second. That's the sad thing. So, Nicklaus has got the best record. Hogan and Snead were the best swingers. I never saw, I watched on YouTube the other day of Hogan swinging. It's actually hard to believe. He's got the thing called it, Had that little thing called it. But he worked like a dog. He only won his first major at 34. At 34, his first major. And then, now here's the thing, the sequel to the story, that Ben Hogan went to war in his prime for 5 years. Sam Sneeze, the war, 5 years. Now, can you imagine Ben Hogan then come back and has a serious accident and doesn't play in plus minus 30 major championships in his prime? He would have won the most majors. But if he didn't do it. So, and Sneed went to war. Can you imagine? I mean, imagine telling Tiger Woods or one of these young guys, look, you've got to go to war for 5 years now, in the middle of the play. You can't quite grasp it. It doesn't seem that it's possible, but it is possible. It is possible. But it's quite remarkable when you think what Ben Hogan did and have an accident like that. Oh, but he was a mean hombre. He was a mean hombre. I played my first US Open with him. Oklahoma, Southern Hills. I walk on the tee, take my hat off. Morning, Mr. Hogan. How are you, sir? Morning, fella. That's it. Played 36 holes with him. 5 words. Morning, fella. Well played, son. Good morning the next day. That was it. What's that? 8 or 9 words. Somebody said, why was he so talkative? No, this guy never said a word. You hit a 2-iron that far from the hole, you'd think you'd hit it out of bounds. I mean, he never said a word. I mean, he was absolutely an amazing guy, but he had his reasons, and I respected it, and I enjoyed playing with him because I don't have to have a man talking to me all the time. You play with Trevino, it's the opposite. He's talking to you on your damn backswing. I mean, he's crazy, this guy. Trevino. He's the only man who can make jokes about color. And he says, we're in the locker room at the golf tournament. We had a lot of black guys playing the tour when we played. Now they're not. And we all got on extremely well. And Trevino, they were saying this and what happened in the old days. Trevino says, you guys are a bunch of woozies complaining. He says, man, let me tell you something. When the Civil Rights Bill was passed, I'm getting on the bus in San Antonio. And the bus driver, he says, I'm brown. You can see, he says, the bus driver says to me, Negroes at the back of the bus. He says, I'm not a Negro, I'm a Mexican. He says, well, get off the bus. That's Trevino for you see. He says anything, he doesn't. I wish I could tell you the story about him peeing on the carpet. Well, they're all grown-ups, I'm going to tell you this. So he says, Gary, he says, I go to the toilet in the morning and my wife and I have 2 different toilets. And he says, I see a mat in front of my toilet. And I go to, I say, Claudia, what are you putting a mat all of a sudden in front of my toilet? She says, Lee, you're peeing at night. As you know, we're all men, we get up at night. You're peeing on the floor, you're peeing on the seat. Now you're starting to pee on the toilet paper. He says, Gary, he says, what your wife doesn't realize, as you get older, your private part, it gets old and it shrinks, it pulls it. He says, it goes into like a shell, like a turtle's neck. And he says, now I go for a pee and I can't find it, so I just pee all over the place.
That's good. I think that's good. Oh, God. Woo. Well, wow. If we could just stay another hour, that would be great. But it is getting late and it's getting dark. Haven't we had a great time with Gary tonight?
Thank you.
The paper for Dennis. You got the paper for Dennis? Well, before we go tonight, let me just also advertise something very special that we have. If those of you who were here when we had Dennis Walters speak during our speaker series, we have a very special treat. He is going to be doing a show for us on Saturday, May 8th. That's a week from this Saturday at 4 o'clock, I believe, out by the driving range. We have some brochures or some handouts for you on your way out so that you can call and make your reservations so that you can be a part of Dennis. Dennis, again, you're an honored guest, and we're so glad to have
You got to go and watch him. You got to go and watch it. You'll get a wonderful surprise.
Gary, thank you so much. Everyone, God bless you, and thank you so much for being part of our speakers. Good night now.